can have programs like this. And alhamdulillah, it's good to see. But we're already relaxed. Alhamdulillah. Right, so I'm sure most of you know why we are here. We are here to conduct this one-of-a-kind program, a new initiative by the MASL called Marriage Matters. Obviously, I think being Muslims, all of us know that marriage is an important part of all our lives. It's half of our faith. It's a decision, a very important life decision. It's an investment. It's a lot of things. So it's not something that should be taken lightly. And if you are going into this pathway of marriage, it's something that should be seriously talked about, seriously considered, and seriously invested upon. That is why we at MASL decided, thanks to the lovely ladies committee that we have to, take this matter a bit seriously into our hands and make use of the awesome resource panel that we have. Counselors, psychologists, and many more professionals who can help us in this subject of marriage, whether it's premarital, whether it's postmarital, whether it's separating from marriage, whether it's wanting to get married, whatever, anything related to marriage, we are here to help. That's the message that we'd like to give you. Having said that, even though I'm married for a decade, alhamdulillah, happily, it's not my place to tell you what's right and what's wrong. We'll leave that to the experts. I will, though, help you navigate through the program this evening by being your MC. To start things off, obviously, as is tradition for us Muslims, we will start by invoking the blessings of the Almighty, and we'll do that by reciting a few verses of the Holy Quran. For that, I'd like to invite Sheikh Amhar to do it for us. Jazakallah khair.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين بلى وأنا على ذلك من الشاهدين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
I will wear a hijab. It's my identity.
Shut up and listen to me. If you say anything, I will slap you.
I have so much money, big house, beautiful cars. Why do you have to work? What will people say?
You make me a demon with the children. You influence them so much that they don't like to spend any time with me.
You expect me to be a perfect Barbie doll. House has to be perfect. I have to be perfect. Perfection, perfection, perfection.
The way you laugh at all my friends' jokes. I know you. Nothing I say makes you smile even.
You demand money every week and spend it on unnecessary things. I don't earn so much.
You don't help with the housework or the children's work. On weekdays, you work late, you're tired, and you go to sleep. On weekends, it's your friends. Why did you marry me?
You are always on the phone with your mother. She's present in the bedroom, on the table, and everywhere. Why did you marry me?
I don't even know how much you earn. You don't tell me anything about your finances, our finances. I want to buy a new cooker, but I'm scared to even mention it.
I know who cuts your hair at the salon. You lie to me and go to a male hairstylist. I have all the people telling me everything. I have all the information about you. Why did you marry me? I
are
feel
s-
trapped.
I hate you. Why did you marry
I
me?
feel trapped. Why did you marry me?
I hate you.
I feel trapped. Why did you marry me?
I
Why did you
hate you.
marry
I
me?
feel
Why did you
trapped. I
marry me?
hate
I
you. I
hate
feel
you. I hate you.
trapped.
I hate you. I hate you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Seema. Welcome, everyone, to yet another Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the medical team of the MASL. Before we begin, I would like to request you all to put your mobile phones on silent and remain seated until the program is concluded so that you don't disturb the discussion. We are hoping to conduct a question and answer session at the end of the program, so please save your questions and feedback until then. Please note that taking photographs and videos is not allowed. We will leave that to the professionals. And we have an additional request, thanks to COVID pandemic. Please keep your face mask on at all times. Now, it's really good to be back physically conducting these sessions, ladies and gentlemen. As you may already know, we, the medical team, have conducted other sessions bringing awareness to and highlighting issues in the community. For example, domestic violence and depression. When we were conducting such sessions, we were requested to talk about and bring awareness to problems associated with marriage. Hence, Marriage Matters come to exist, and here we are this evening. We started gathering our data by having an online discussion, ladies and gentlemen, with a focus group a couple of weeks ago. When we were conducting our research associated with this issue, we came to realize that as per any relationship, marriage too has problems. But what many don't have knowledge of is that the help or support to solve or even reduce these issues are available too. Hence, the panel. Seema, Sumaya, she'll be online soon. Nida, Shahid, uncle to me, and our guest, Sheikh Ismat, from Careline. Introductions to these panelists will be given by Samir Bha in just a minute. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, therefore, is going to be discussions on how we can resolve, what we can do, and who we can reach out to get the support that we all need to handle hurdles that the Institute of Marriage comes with. Spoiler alert, there will be a series of online and face-to-face sessions related to today's theme, Marriage Matters, in the near future. I will let Samir Bha talk about that later. So, without further ado, Samir will take over to start by introducing the panelists. Thank you, everyone. Here's hoping that this evening sheds light on any questions that you may have. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Neelam Babi, for that very comprehensive introduction to what we're here to do and what we intend to do as we go on, as we see more people coming in, mashallah. It's becoming a house full. Just a quick reminder, if you have anyone at home who wasn't able to make it here today, we are live on our Sri Lanka Memon Samachar Facebook page and our YouTube channel, so you can send them the link if you want to and remind them that they can watch it at home if they want to. So that's a reminder. And of course, as Neelam Bhabi very clearly said, we've got a lovely panel today, panel of experts, panel of professionals who are here to answer questions, not just from the moderator, but also from you a little later on, whatever it is that we'd like to know about marriage, matters of marriage. Starting off with, it is my obvious pleasure to introduce to you our moderator. I don't think she needs an introduction, but either way, it is our very own Mrs. Aisha Anis. She is very well known as the First Lady for a long time because she's the wife of our former President Anis Bha. That's at least what I like to call her, so please give her a big round of applause. And then, of course, we have other wonderful panelists who will be answering this question, starting off with our in-house counselor, our very own Maiman again, Mrs. Seema Omar. Please give her also a big round of applause. You may take your seat, ma'am, while we speak. And joining us all the way from home, thanks to technology, alhamdulillah, will be Sumaya Iqbal, a psychologist who is unfortunately down with COVID, so she couldn't make it here at the event. But alhamdulillah, thanks to technology and thanks to all the advancements that we have, she will be joining us live on the call. We'll have her on the screen very soon, so it's as if she's here. She'll be joining us. And of course, representing Caroline Institute, which is a very well-known Islamic counseling, marriage, especially marriage counseling institute, is Sheikh Ruzaik Ismat. He is with us. Sheikh, you can take your seat as well. Please give him also a big round of applause. And another person who generally doesn't need an introduction, he is the Qadi for the Maimans. It is none other than Mr. Shahid Sangani. He too will be a panelist. Wow, the applause for that is a little special, isn't it? And then, of course, last but not the least, interning with Shahid Ba, learning from, obviously, the expert, and no one better, is Miss Nida Yasin Admani. She too will be joining, a youngster who will help us navigate through matters of merit. So, mashallah, as you can see, a good mix in the panel, youngsters, elders, those representing the faith, obviously, and obviously those who are experts on the subject. I will now, without further ado, hand over proceedings to our lovely moderator, Mrs. Aisha Anis. Let's begin.
My father was in his 80s when dementia struck him. His sickness made him forget everything, except one ritual at the dining table with my mother. For many years, my father had the habit of serving food to my mom before putting anything on his plate. Even at that stage, my father was working hard to keep the spark alive in his marriage. Fast forward to my generation, where space at the table is always shared by someone, popping from FaceTime, WhatsApp, and whatnot. Heart emojis have become the easiest form of communication. Fast forward to my children's generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs, where a new world has shaped the way they think and believe and behave. And marriage has taken a completely new meaning altogether. In today's discussion with our panelists on stage, we will speak about the challenges facing marriage and the support and services they would offer related to matters of marriage. Before we get on with the discussion, I'd like to inform our audience in person and virtual that a question-answer session will follow our discussion with the panelists. Usually, we speak in a mix of Memni and English, but because we have a guest from outside on stage, so I would be mostly speaking in English, and if somebody needs clarification, they can put up their hands and I can translate it for them. So without much ado, let me begin. And let's dive in with all the panelists on one word that means marriage to you. So I'll start off with the ladies, and then we'll move on to the men. So Seema, what does marriage mean to you in one word?
Challenges.
I think that mic is off.
Challenges.
Nida?
Self-discovery. That's true.
It's a tough one, but trust.
Companionship.
And
What about
anybody from the audience who would like to give their
Aishanti,
input?
what about you?
Mine is 2 words, ongoing process. Okay, anybody from the audience Yeah, Khatija. Compromise says Khatija. Anyone else? One word that means that marriage is to you. Sharing. Wonderful. Anybody else wanting to have a go? We have a lot of people who are
Understanding.
understanding, of course. Two-way traffic, great. Anyone else?
But what about caring? Caring.
Caring and sharing, of course, yeah. So marriage means a whole lot of wonderful things to all of us. And we wouldn't associate it with anything, bad, especially, when two people are going into a union. I mean, that's something so far off from their minds. So, a couple of weeks back, we had a discussion with three gentlemen from the community, Mr. Ilyas, Mr. Babubha, and Mr. Jafar. And these people have been, receiving complaints from couples about marriage. They've been doing it for 20 odd years. They've been giving them the solutions. They've been counseling them in the ways they knew best. So we had a meeting with them, and there were a few things. So we wanted them to say what were the problems that they were faced with, that couples were faced with when they came to them. So the four important things that came out of our meeting was financial matters, number one. Number two was high expectations out of women. Number three, instant solutions to answers. And number four, parents' interference. So they were faced with these kind of problems. Is there anything that from the panel you would like to add on to what is already on my list?
One thing I would like to add is that times have changed. Just like you said earlier, your parents' marriage, your marriage, and how it's going to be for your children is going to be very different. I think we need to work with that rather than fight it. When we don't go with those changes, it poses a lot of difficulties, I think.
Anyone else has anything to add? Shahid, from your experience.
Well, marriage is definitely not an easy road to travel. And it's something that you need to learn to do it over a period of time to be successful. And one thing that I find some other times is that especially the younger marriages, the patience and the expectation, patience is not there. You get married and then you have this, I don't know, the Hollywood kind of a thing of saying that it's going to be all rosy. It's not. And it takes a lot of time and effort for a marriage to work. And that is something that I think in today's generation that is lacking. I don't know, our parents of course sacrificed a lot, but even during our times I think we were a lot more patient and we are willing to work hard at it. But now it's all about instant gratification, and either it works or if it doesn't work, there are instances 6 months later they say, no, we want to separate. And sometimes for some very silly reasons.
Out of what you all mentioned, we see that many youngsters get into the marriage with a lack of knowledge. I mean, they are not prepared to get married because sometimes parents think that if their son is earning well, the daughters have attained a certain age, that's the most suitable time for them to get married. Whereas they don't focus about the preparedness of the person. Because marriage is a relationship between two individuals. And the person whom they get married is going to be their intimate, close person who gets to know about the faults, the positives, the negatives, and etc. So when they don't know to handle a person who is intimate, while there is differences between the two of them,
and that can turn out to become, the relationship can turn out to become bitter most of the time. As you said, expectations are not met, and even the world we are living today, many youngsters expect, they want excitement. So the excitement phase of marriage gradually starts to, fade. So they don't know how to keep the love, alive throughout the marriage. Because if you look at our ancestors, or our parents and grandparents, they knew how to keep that marriage, the love alive in their relationship. But today, many are, Shahid said, instant gratification. So youngsters try things. If they don't get it, then they leave the person. And that's why we see the number of divorce increasing. So in short, lack of knowledge before they embark on the journey of marriage.
Okay, so I'll start the next question on this note with you, Sheikh Ismat. So this is for the sake of the audience that we have today. So I'll give each panelist 3 minutes so they can talk about their work. So I would ask you, at what stage in their marriage do people reach out to you for help? And do you have a framework that you use to provide support?
So at Careline, when it comes to the clientele we have, we can say 90% of our clients seek counseling because of marital issues. They have issues in their marriage. So we categorize it into two, the framework, if you have to look at it. One is the proactive approach and the reactive approach. And we cater to the community through the proactive approach by conducting premarital counseling programs. So we have conducted courses, and there are instances where people don't have time to, spend at least 20 hours of their valuable time. So we cater to the public in a way that we have a 5-hour program. So this is a proactive approach. And the minimum level is we approach the scholars and give them awareness about importance of premarital counseling, and we try our best to make the message public in the masajid in Colombo and different parts of the country. So by that, we have been able to cater to around 850 plus participants with premarital counseling. So that is our proactive approach. When it comes to reactive, so there are the individuals who come in for counseling when they face issues in their marriage. That into two, and we work closely with the 4 Qazi courts in Colombo. So far, we have handled over 930 couple counseling sessions and over 4,000 counseling sessions related to marriage alone. And if you look at the success rates, if you look at the Qazi court cases, we see that there is around 20% success rate in those clients. If we get 10 couples, we are able to. And when it comes to the direct cases, if they were to call Careline and walk in for a counseling session through appointments, then we see the success rate is very high, because the difference between the two classes, the two groups of people, is the person who applies for the divorce has made up his or her mind, what come may, I'm going
for a legal process. Wise as a Qazi, I need to be mindful of the Sharia part of it and what's the right way to do that. End of the day, what I am doing is a legal administrative process. So what comes to me is when it's at a reactive stage where couples are having problems. Like Sheikh says, what happens with me is, okay, when somebody comes, I usually, my process, the framework for me is whoever makes the complaint first, I will sit with them, I'll spend time with them, try to understand what the problem is. Then I will always call the other party individually, get their part of the story, because everything has a perspective. It's not that one person is right and the other person is wrong. It's just the two sides of the same coin. So you need to understand what the problem is and understand the problem from each other's perspective. After that, I get both of them down and I let them talk it out in front of me what the problem is. So that helps out sometimes in that, okay, so because I have had that discussion with them individually, there are times I can interject and give the different perspective the way I see it. That way I try to see whether there can be some kind of a meeting of the minds and to reduce the tension between the couples. Sometimes it has actually worked. After that, I'll see if I can get down some of the elders. Sometimes I find is, in some of these cases, the parents don't want to come or the children don't want the parents to come. So there have been instances where they'll come and make excuses saying, my father can't come, my mother can't come. No, why do you want my mother? I don't want my father-in-law. So there are instances like that. But if they insist on it, I always say, before I do anything, I want you all to go for a counseling. So even when they come to me, usually the talaq is a husband has to make a talaq application or a wife makes an application. I do not accept a talaq application straight away. I say first go through a reconciliation process and try to do that. Then I send for counseling. So by counseling, two things I try to do. One is, of course, to go through the I am not a professional counselor. I can help and give some advice and guidance. But I do not pretend to be a counselor and I don't want to be the counselor. That's a professional job. I leave it to the professionals to do. So I always say go to a professional counseling. I have not used Caroline, but in future maybe I will. But I send them for counseling. And that counseling session also helps. And what happens also is that takes a little time, maybe 2-3 months. Sometimes that alone helps to reduce the heat, so to speak, and people get together. And that helps. And if that doesn't work and the counselor gives me a report, then I will take the report and again I try to do, then I try to bring the parents in or whatever. If that doesn't work, then of course go through the procedure of separation. But like Sheikh says, I would say yes, 20-30% is the success rate when it comes to going through that counseling process. But also that getting them to talk sometimes also helps, and it helps to reduce the tension, and sometimes it works.
Therapy helps. Nida, you have been interning with Shahid for quite some time now, and I've always heard that the women approach you because it's easier for the women to talk to another woman. They come to you in the hope that one woman will understand another woman as compared to a man. So what do you have to say in this? Means what kind of support do you offer
Can I
them?
say something about that before she answers that? That's a good point what you say. Now what happens in a Qazi system is that especially when a woman asks for talaq, if the procedure is going on, the Qazi is obligated to form what we call assessor panel. That is the 3 people who assist the Qazi in the talaq process. Now by Sharia and by law, a man can give talaq without a reason. As a Qazi, even in our this thing, we are not even supposed to ask why. You try to clear the reconciliation, but a man doesn't have to give a reason why he wants a talaq. Because that's how Sharia is and that's how the law is also. So there is no need for a fault in the marriage for a man to ask for a talaq. For a lady to ask for a talaq, there has to be a fault in the marriage. And there are about 5 or 6 different faults that is there. Non-maintenance, cruelty, adultery, different kind of things. So to do that, then also, so for that talaq or what we call fasal divorce, is that there has to be assessor panel, and that assessor panel assists the Qazi during the hearings. They will be asking questions, they will be there when the evidence is taken. So our law says that you need to have 3 assessors. So usual practice in, I think, I may be wrong, but I don't think there is a single assessor panel in Sri Lanka which has a lady assessor. Because that's how it has always been. And when I did that also, there are people saying don't do that because it's not, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, maybe Ilyas Ba can correct me, but I think the regulation says 3 males. It's actually specifies says 3 males. But sometimes you need to break the rules. So what I did was I actually put Nida in there for the simple reason like what you said. It's always easier for a woman to talk to a woman, especially when you come to something like a marriage problem. There can be a lot of personal, intimate things that they don't want to say. So what I find now is half my problem takes care of by Nida, because they're always messaging her and talking to her, and then she'll WhatsApp me and say, Uncle, this one is saying this one is saying that. So I think what you say is correct, but there is a slight issue in our, so there, but having a lady there, I think is very, very good to do that if you can.
That's amazing.
Just to continue from what he said,
Yeah.
I think we have to really commend you, Uncle, for taking that progressive step that perhaps nobody in Sri Lanka has taken. But like he said, I'm sometimes the only woman in this process. That can be a really difficult thing, especially for women. Even the thought of divorce can make a woman really afraid. And he explained the legal process to us right now, but I don't know how many of y'all actually understood that, because it's a very technical process. So a lot of women feel comfortable to call me and ask me how the divorce process works. So I give them the legal information, very informally, and it's a very anonymous conversation. I don't tell them who I am or who my family is, and I don't ask who their family is or who the husband is. I just know their first name, and they ask me, I am thinking about a divorce, or this is what is happening right now. What can I do? How do I approach the Qazi? So I give them that information. I tell them this is how the process works. This is what you will have to do. These are possible outcomes and possible requirements or problems that can come up. Again, very objectively, I don't say you should get a divorce or you should not. I just tell them what the process is. And like we've said, it's actually a lot easier for women to speak to another woman. And I've noticed now that whenever I'm in one of the hearings that we have with the Qazi, so it's a group of men and it's me at the table. And you can see the woman, she sits like this, facing me, and she's always talking to me. Because that's how she feels comfortable. That makes her feel like she's able to sort of connect with somebody in that really difficult process, and where she has to thank you, where she has to own up to a lot of difficult and kind of vulnerable information about her marriage. So it makes a world of a difference, I think, that having a woman there and having a woman to support you through the process. So that's the kind of service. I'm very informally and very, I don't even know if I can call myself qualified for it, but that's the service that I'm providing.
Seema?
Yeah, qualified or not, I know that it's a very difficult thing that you're doing. And yeah, I think it's amazing. This discussion was very enlightening for me. I didn't know that the process was like this and that the laws were really, I didn't know they were so unfair. So, you know, that's all the more reason why women need a woman there in the process. So I think...
But Seema, what I must correct you is, we can't say law is very unfair also, because this law also and what is there is also coming from Sharia. So it's not entirely the fault with the law. That's how Sharia is. I mean, Sharia is the one that says that man can give a talaq without a reason. And Sharia is the one that says that there has to be a fault in the marriage.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's unfair. That's all, okay? You know, you ask about framework. So for me, if anybody comes to me, so I'm very unaware of the legal aspect of things. So I will really not influence somebody in their decision of whether they want a divorce or not. I will, that is their decision, and I will, when they come, at whatever stage they come for help, they are suffering. So I feel my role is to support them and help them, whatever they decide to do. So, but one thing I often say is that, you know, you can divorce soon enough, and anyway, you can't do it today. So till you do it, would you like to try something? Would you like to understand the dynamics of what's going on between you and your husband? Because it's rare that I get just a man to come for help. It's usually the woman who comes by herself for help. So I might ask her if she's willing. I know this sounds really, really silly, but I will ask her that just as an experiment, just for 1 week, will you try to pay your husband a genuine compliment every day and just see what happens? There are times when it changes the atmosphere. There are times when somebody is very, very sure they want to get a divorce. So the way I see it is that my role is to support them with whatever they're going through.
Yeah, we'll come to that. I'll finish with, we have another panelist. I've completely forgotten about her because I can't see her. So, Sumaya, shall I just address the screen? Yeah, I'm looking at myself. She can hear me, okay. So, Sumaya, so I'm, this question comes to you also. At what stage in their marriage do people reach out to you for help? And what's the framework you use to provide support? There she is.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, I can hear myself also. But never mind. The question that you've posed is about framework, and I think a lot of the conversation has been around divorce and things like that, which is usually not the case when people come for support towards me. So as a psychologist, you definitely have frameworks, and it really differs from to client. Jero and your client dono unje hisab se inke support asadine. And if usually when they come to us or come to me or any other psychologist, it is to fix something. It is not in terms of ending a relationship. It is not in terms of like going towards a divorce or something. It's usually what can I do to make better, and that's the sort of approach we also take as psychologists. And so while we do that, we obviously have several different frameworks. Again, differs from person to person. It usually is a lot of individual work. So what can I do to make my relationship better with my partner, and how can I take it from here? So, and the narrative that I will also provide is, okay, we've come to this impasse, you've come to this stage. How can we go from here into like making things better? How can we make things better for you? How can we make things better at home? That's the sort of approach that we take. And that's the approach that I use. And the framework obviously differs from person to person. So now, if someone is going through depression, then I will support them in their depression, and then we will look at how we can make them the relationship better. Because at the end of the day, you have to work with the person. A particular person that is coming needs work. So we're going to work on that and then focus on the relationship, then focus on how we can make things better in their relationship, then with their families, so on and so forth. So it'll differ from person to person. If the person is not depressed, is completely fine and just wants a solution, okay, how can I be a partner, or how can I fix my relationship, then we focus on that. So it really differs from person to person and client to client. But it's usually in terms of looking at how we can make things better for the individual, for the relationship. And we try those things like Seema said. You'll try and you'll experiment stuff. And obviously it's not driven to make them decide anything in terms of like, should I leave or not? That is not a question there at all. It's just about how can we protect their mental well-being and the well-being of their relationship. That's it.
So different approaches here by all our panelists. And Sumaya, before you go, I want to pose this question to you. What does marriage mean to you in one word? Because as compared to the other panelists, you're a young unmarried woman. So I would like to hear it from you. What is
in my opinion, it's togetherness in one word.
Thank you, Sumaya. Okay, so there are a lot of people who are asking for especially this question to be.
Something to the discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay. So at Caroline, if you look at the number of counselors who deal with whether it's marital or clinical, whatever cases, the number of female counselors are more than the males. So in the system, just like what was discussed, even at Caroline, the ladies go to the female counselors and the males go to the males. And once the individual sessions are over, then we have the couple sessions. So either sometimes the lady counselor will take the lead or the male counselor will take the lead. So by that, as we already spoke about, there's a lot of advantage as well, because the lady is free to put out her emotions, her feelings, her issues, and we have seen a lot of benefit through that as well. So I think that's an area as a community we need to focus, and sisters need to come forward in order to help the sisters to come out of whatever the issues they're having in their marriages. So that would be the ideal way to approach as well, because a lady is generally not comfortable to speak about certain things with a male. So alhamdulillah, since the beginning in 2014, that's how we have been catering to our clients.
I really like what I hear you saying, and I wish more men would help.
So I hope all the young women are listening, and the young psychologists are listening. So the community needs more women to come forward and help other women. Women support women. Oh, young men?
We need females and males as well. We have a bad time finding
Because what
male counselors.
There's a lot of need.
Okay.
There is a lot of demand, but the supply is less.
Yeah,
Okay.
because from what you said, what I understood was that the husband would speak to a man,
yeah.
and the wife would speak to a woman, and they probably have permission for the two counselors to discuss what will be most helpful to the couple. So the quality of the support they offer is very comprehensive. That makes a lot of sense. So which means we need help from the men.
In the Mayman community, male counselors?
And once the couple sessions are over, then we have to we prepare a report, a summarized report of the content. So basically we have the details like the complaints of the husband, all what he mentioned in the individual session, which sometimes doesn't come out during the couple session, but we tend to mention that. Then the complaints of the wife, the mainly identified problems through the counseling process, what we identified, and finally, the conclusion remarks. What was the final decisions made by the couple during the final session? And then we leave the Qazi to decide to take the case forward. That's how it works.
Yeah, so in the couple session, so, is that the final face-off, between a couple? So they have, the man has his, complaints, the woman has her complaints, and, I'm very interested in knowing what happens when they come for this joint session.
Right. So before the joint sessions take place, both counselors read the previous report, like the individual counseling report. So the counselors are aware about what to expect in the session. So when they go into the session, I think 70 to 80% of the time they know what will be the complaints of both parties. So they are prepared. And if they don't seriously talk about some complaints which they already spoken in the individual session, the counselors don't go to dig that out, because that can lead to something unnecessary there.
More
because
issues.
we have encountered situations where it hasn't gone physical, but because these cases are really serious, they can become verbally abusive and all that, even in front of a counselor. If there is a need, now let's say they had the couple counseling session, the first one, and if the counselors, they think a second session will be helpful, then we will not mind having another session to them. So we will inform the courts that we won't be able to send this report, we need time. So we will give them some activities, or go home, rethink about your decision, because certain signs will show. When today, alhamdulillah, we had two couples who were prepared to reconcile. So we give them a time and we call them again for a session after 2 weeks or whatever. Through that, if they are sincere in working on the marriage, then we see they mend the relationship and get back. So that's and then finally we send a report saying that through the counseling process they have settled. But even if they settle in the counseling process, we ask them to go to the Qazi and make sure they inform them that things are in order. That's how it works.
So talk of verbal abuse brings me to my next question. Actually, I'm, getting myself into this deeper and deeper into this discussion. Some people need some translation in Maimani, And so we'll come to that. Since you know we are in the heat of things, I would like to get on to my next question about Nida and Shahid. How do you deal with victims of domestic violence in your work?
Well, as a Qazi, there is nothing much you can do about domestic violence except to advise the couple. And it's domestic violence, okay, in my experience has always been the husband hitting the wife. It's never been the other way around. There have been instances like that, but no. So whenever that happens, first thing that of course I always tell the man is, whatever it is, you have no right of hitting. You can have any amount of differences, but there is no way that you can lift a hand. There have been instances where people have, then the men have come and quoted Hadith and Quran and saying that you are permitted. I'll tell them in my court it's not permitted. So I always say that first thing is you cannot hit anybody. Whatever the differences are, you have no right of lifting the hand. You can sort out the problems anyway, but you can't. But there are instances where the domestic abuse continues. So there I always advise the ladies that if it continues, you please go and put a police entry. Usually that doesn't happen because when a woman has been used to getting abused over a period of time, they don't want to do that because they are scared. And it's because it just doesn't happen. So that has always been my approach. Abuse is not allowed, permitted. Domestic abuse, especially physical violence, is not allowed. And I will always say that's a very, very fair ground for a talaq. And I'll always tell the husband, if this continues, this lady is definitely entitled to a talaq. And if she wants, she will be, as far as I'm concerned, she'll be permitted to get a talaq. So because of that, you either first stop that and then find a way to solve your problems. And the lady also, I tell the same thing. So that's how it happens. But unfortunately, what happens is, what I see sometimes is, we don't have a good support network and system. So there are a lot of the ladies who continue to stay in these abusive relationships because they don't have a choice. Parents are probably not well off, or parents don't want the daughter to come back. She has young children, she doesn't know what to do. Some of them are not educated, don't have much skills. So they are worried, if I leave the man, what will happen to me? What happens also is, once you get a talaq, you are not entitled for any support from the husband. You get idda maintenance. Once the idda maintenance is over, that is it. You can ask for child maintenance, but you do not get alimony, so to speak. So because of that, they do end up having to be in this kind of abusive relationships. Fortunately, I have been speaking to Jafarba and Babuba, and in one or two instances, they have agreed to give some kind of a support. So when a woman knows that, okay, fine, I can get some financial assistance once I leave this marriage, then that makes the decision a little bit more easier. So while the legally, of course, the only way of recourse is through police and a police complaint, what is also necessary is a social net where they have been able to support it, and they know that, okay, so what we need to be sure that it doesn't get abused. That is where the worry is. So we need to have good checks and balances where we can create that kind of a social net where these people can actually come out, get some support, then maybe get some training, get some skills, so that they can after that learn to be on their own and lead a better life thereafter.
So, Babuba, Jafarba, you're in the, the Zakat committee, which, meets on Saturday. Ne ainkro chuna ke what kind of support ain disugota for ladies who are going through abusive marriages, domestic violence in their marriage?
Ane akro watte me aglo shahid ba aglo sang proposal ko gniyawa डिवोर्स थी छोकरी के एसो हिकिड़ो रीते सपोर्ट करनी के असांजी कमिटी में विझी गाल करी है असां जो डिवोर्स थी छोकरी के सपोर्ट करना है कने असां चूना है अरे समझो ना डिवोर्स थी ना छोकरी आई इनके घर बाहर गिनी दीना है इनके अगली खर्ची बंदी दीना है तो जने पास रूम करी तारी के डिवोर्स ले अचो करी तीन कने कमिटी डिसाइड करनी ही ना जो इंडिविजुअल जो सपोर्ट करना ही करना है अना की छोकरी के चूना है मुझे प्रॉब्लम है इनके घर दीना है कने असां चूना है ने असां चूना महीने महीने खर्ची बंदी दीना है जराक पचा पूर्ण तब नीते अने एग्जाम्पल चवान तो असां हिकिड़ो एल्डर्स होम हिकिड़ो खोल ले धारी है घनी मायूं घर में अची ने बहुत तकलीफ़ में आहिनि एडजस्ट करने वेठी पुत्र वटे नूह वटे एडजस्ट करने वेठी असांखे एल्डर्स होम हिकिड़ो खोलने पची हाणे घनी चीजूं बंदि आहिनि घर जे अंदरि ॿुधे के किने की प्रॉब्लम आई ॿुधे ॿाहिरि अची वञा असां सम्झे ॿुधे ॿाहिरि अची ने एल्डर्स होम में ॿुधे त उहो घर जी इज़त बि ओછી थी वञी उहो ॿाहिरि खे कंफर्टेबल थी वञो ना करे ने हर चीज़ में अकड़ी सब्र हुई थी ॿुधे ते इन लाइ करे उहा आइडिया बि कढी विझे त असां जिन जो असां वटि मैरिज जॾहिं जाफ़र अचनि था इन खे असां घणो एडवाइस करूं था छोकिरियुनि जी भुल हुई थी छोकिरियुनि जी भुल हुई थी छोकिरियुनि जी हिकिड़ो भुल हुई थी एक्सपेक्टेशन वधारे मारू जो ₹1,00,000 पगार हूंदो हिनखे हर चीज़ खपे ये लख में वहाँ एडजस्ट करनी इसके आई ना इज द प्रॉब्लम तो इनमें एडजस्ट करे था घर हणे सस्ते जो गुरु है मुझी सस के को अड़ो करूँ मुझी नूह मूंखे नथी करे जी सस के करिए वो जमानो हो ही ससे करिए ही जमानो है इन टाइम तो हू नहीं थी सके इन जो एक्सपेक्टेशन वधारे नो रूप करो चूं असां उन जमाने नो बिदे बैलेंस थियो अपनो ये कोई छोकिरो मारूअ जी फ़क़ति बुल आहे ॿाहिरियुनि जी फ़क़ति बुल आहे माए सवज बेटा खा दे कोई व्याह करनी दे तो खाई नहीं उड़ा खे नहीं ना सवज डो को पहलो फोन मारू करासी कमले वञे पहला मां जो फोन अची ये घना घना हिकिड़ा कोन असी बुद्धनि जो सुधारो करियो सम्झे ताजी थी
ओके सो जागबोरा मेमनी में ट्रांसलेट करी ॾियां थी के ई पंहिंजा जो 5 पैनलिस्ट्स आहिनि इन्हें डिफरेंट कम करनि था शेख इस्मत रन करनि था केयरलाइन काउंसलिंग सर्विसेज जिड़ा इन्हें प्री मैराइटल काउंसलिंग करनि था असां थोड़ी जानियूं पण इन्हें बेगो 10 सेशंस करी आयूं आई डिड 32 years after my marriage, I also did those 10 sessions. In premarital counseling, there's a comprehensive program of 10 sessions. Ta ine encourage karanta ke bade acho marriage pella. So, bade cheez transparent hoye, akado chokro ne chokri je vich mein. So that is what Sheikh Ismat ने करन था इन्हें पोस्ट मैरिटल काउंसलिंग जाने व्याज बाद पन कोई प्रॉब्लम्स होना यू ना ता उनमें पन इन्हें हेल्प दी रही हैं एंड इन्हें जो आए केयरलाइन काउंसलिंग सर्विसेज इन्हें काउंसलिंग सेशंस दी ना पची नहीं थे तो काजी कोर्ट में मोकली दिन था शायद भा नीलम कैन यू
Shahid uncle, maybe you can speak a little in Mehman after you finish in English. Yeah, just summarizing it. Yeah. Yeah, I know he said a lot of things. Okay, so Shahid uncle को करंता के Shahid uncle just now explain करिया के अगर कोई Shahid uncle वटे अचे, they have already decided के divorce करनु आई. इनलाई ना काजी वटे पविनुन था इंजा अज्ञा तक इदा नहीं विनी रही है. and Shahid uncle इंजा बाद अकरो process follow करंता के उन truth शायद अंकल चुता राइट ओके ई लीगल मैटर्स आहिनि उन थ्रू नथा इनकरेज करन इन्हें भी काउंसलिंग लाइ मोकलण लाइ ट्राई करन था इन बाद काउंसलिंग लाइ विनन था ने अगर उड़ा ना थे ता शाहिद अंकल टेक्स द नेक्स्ट स्टेप ने चून था कि ओके फाइन हाने डिवोर्स जो प्रोसेस वो ही तो उनके फॉलो करना है ने शाहिद अंकल आई होप आई काइंड ऑफ समराइज दैट वेल ओके बियो की खपे ता शाहिद अंकल के डायरेक्टली गाल करी निदा करो करे थी कि डिवोर्स लाइक करीने वेल प्रॉब्लम
I can
परफेक्ट थैंक यू
अगर कोई के डिवोर्स कोई भी वुमन के कोई भी बारी के डिवोर्स जी बारे में सोची रहा है या पछी इनके करनो है जो हस्बैंड के डिवोर्स था मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम कोई के भी खबर नहीं हुई कि लीगल प्रोसेस क्रो हुए तो की मतलब बाइरी जो क्रो आहे हक डिवोर्स जो त इन मूंखे फ़ोन करनि थियूं ने आउं इनखे सम्झाइनि थी कि प्रोसेस हीअं हले थो ने आइके हीअं करियो अपनो आइके हीअं विटनेस गिनी अचियो अपनो ने पछी ने पोते जे मापे से या फैमिली से ॻाल्हि करे ने मुंहिंजे वटि वापसि अचनि थियूं कि हाणे असांखे काज़ी से मिलाए ॾियो या पछी असांखे डिवोर्स नथो खपे त आउं हिकिड़ी लाइक फर्स्ट पॉइंट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्ट या फॉर मोस्टली फॉर विमेन जो सोचनि थियूं कि इनखे डिवोर्स खपे थो ने कीअं ही प्रोसेस कीअं अॻियां वधाए लाइ
Is it only divorce that they come directly for you, or do they need some guidance with regards? Divorce sudni puji vine to tade achan ta directly ya chun ta ke right asange ki help kape to ya khair koi mare kare ta inke ubharal like ki, you know, something like that.
Actually, what I've noticed is women, when they start thinking about divorce, it's because it's come to that point. Koi bhi bairi shuru mein divorce ke bare mein nahi soche. She's not going to think of divorce when the situation is okay or when the situation is like this. It has to usually get to a point, from my experience, maybe the Shahid uncle, you can tell me differently, but it gets so bad because anyway divorce is not easy for a woman. And it's not easy legally, and in society also it's not easy because it affects a woman more afterwards. You have to suffer more than the man sometimes. So if a woman is seeking a divorce, it's because it's got to that point where it's so bad. And yes, they usually do come to me when it's at that point, not before. I'd like to tell Babu uncle something about Jai Hanichwa. I chuna ke matlab some cases jo shayad genuine noun इन्हें अच्छी नगर पाने के चूँ क्या के घर में नहीं डीनो नैसा इनके मतलब monthly allowance ऐसा इनके डीना है ता divorce शायद increase थी विनन वो को risk आए definitely I agree के वो risk आए but इन जो opposite scenario आए के भले अकड़ी छोकरी भी वो ये बहुत छोकरी हों अगर इन्हें ऐरे marriage में बैठी हुई इंजरा इन्हें के मारी जो है husband ने इन्हें बेटे पैसा ने मापे मना कर दिया कैसा बेटे तो ना आज वापस तो ऐरे घर में पाने के ज़बरदस्ती रखूं कि असां के नहीं सपोर्ट करूं वो भी गलत है बिकॉज एज अ कम्युनिटी पांजी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है पांजी जिम्मेदारी है कि अगर पाण वटि ज़कात जा पैसा आहिनि त पाण इन जो ख़्यालु रखूं ये भी पांजी धीउ आहिनि सो आई एग्री ऐं जो चौथा आई एग्री इन प्रिंसिपल बट एट द सेम टाइम वी शुड हैव दैट अरेंजमेंट ताकि पाण चेक करूं कि जेन्युइन केस है शायद भाउ से पाण हू रिकमेंडेशन गिनूं बट पाण कभी भी कोई छोकरी के ही ना लगे कि कोई मुझे साथ दे ने मुझे वटि की भी सपोर्ट ने अहिड़े सिचुएशन में पाण खे कोई भी मेमन या मुस्लिम छोकरी के ना रखियो पे
एंड इन जे साथ में ही चूनिस कि अगर कोई मारनो होनो तो वो भी बहुत दुखी होनो उनके भी मदद की ज़रूरत है सो एज अ कम्युनिटी वी नीड टू सपोर्ट एवरीबडी
ऐं निदा हिंगेर चवाना बराबरि ॻाल्हि आहे जो शाहिद बि असां वटि अकड़ ॼाण खे मोकिली आहे हिकिड़ी छोकिरी मोकिली आहे असां करो डिसाइड करी आहे पर इन लाइ करे फाइल खोलीने इन जे बारे में असां अनाउंस नहीं करूं असां उहा छोकिरी आयो आहे उनखे मंथली पेमेंट चालू करे ॾींदा आहियूं पर्सनली असांजी जो कमिटी हुई 6-8 ॼणा भेरा थी ने असां इनखे शुरू करे ॾींदा आहियूं अहिड़ो पैसा निर्णय कने एवरी डिवोर्स इज़ जेन्युइन भेरे राइट टू शाहिद बाजू त बोयनि जी बुल्लू जूतियूं अचे थी त बोय कोई ॿुधनि जी बुल्लू हुई थी बुल हुणी त इनखे मारू नथो पए त छॾले राइट आहे दिस इज़ नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम वन मोर थिंग आई वॉन्ट टू टेल आयशा दिस ई सेशन में मूंखे लॻे थो हाणे पाण वेठा आहियूं तॾहिं जी डिवोर्स जी ॻाल्हि करूं त बिकॉज दिस इज़ मैरिज मैटर्स ऐं सारी ॻाल्हियूं करूं नेगेटिव इंगरी ॿुधे डिवोर्स जी लॻभॻि की डिवोर्स ही अचा हुआ है डिवोर्स जो सिस्टम करो है की हैंडल करा हुआ है की फाइल खोला हुआ है मुझे वटि अचनि था शायदि वटि हुन सिस्टम की चुई ॾिनीसि अहिड़ी पंहिंजी क़ौम में डिवोर्स जी ॻाल्हि मां करो दिस इज़ चले में अचणो ई जाए हिकिड़ी नंढी ॻाल्हि करी चवां थो हिकिड़ी छोकिरी आ हुई इन जो घरवारनि जो प्रॉब्लम हुओ सम्झो काल अॼु जा मिल लॻंदा कजाने ऑफिस ते मिल मूंखे हीअ आ हुई त हिकिड़ी छोकिरी हिकिड़ी गिनी न आ हुई एक्सेस बुक हिकिड़ी ऐं जी हिकिड़ो आहे इज़ी आई रोड द माई प्रॉब्लम्स 3 पेज लिखी ना हुई करी ई खोल ले ई तो गिनियत नो ने चुमना मा हाने आऊं चुआन तो जे चोपड़ी में लिखी बेयो कर फेर है कुरो लिखा जी कुरो सारो करिया नहीं लिखता शी स्टार्ट टू राइटिंग आई भरोसो नहीं करो हकरो अध पेज लिखी ने आंखें में पानी अची गया शी इज क्राइंग हां इस अंकल में के डिवोर्स न तो हां जो कुरो आई पिल्ला नारो ई मारू कुरो सारो करिए तई जे फर्स्ट बर्थडे में के ई रिंग नी यांजी एनिवर्सरी में के मलेशिया खोटी वियो शी स्टार्ट टेलिंग वैलेंटाइन गिफ्ट पकड़ो डायमंड नहीं भी हाँ जो तू ये बधे छड़ी ने किडा ही फुल से वो नारम जना तो इंजरो वो डिवोर्स पार्ट पा पची नारना है मुझे एक्सपीरियंस में चुआन तो मिसी भी घना हो चले डिवोर्स पार्ट इंशाल्लाह अच्छे नहीं करने धारने जी सेशन शुरू करो बुद्धे सारी गाली करो ने बच्चे के हेरो एडवाइस दियो घर वाले के छड़ावाई ना प्रॉब्लम तो आई बेदे जगह बुद्धे थी तो अजे आऊं अकरे के छोकरे के हैंडल करम या ई छोकरे बेरो छोकरी रेवा छोकरो रे छोकरे बेरो रेवाय ना करनो आऊं 90% डिसाइड कर ये आज किलो सारे सी नबर है दे आर द टॉप इन मेमन फैमिलीज इंशाल्लाह
So, Seema, you were also saying something similar, right? That compliment your, better other half for some days and. Yeah. Once you're done, yes, like he said, we'll go on to the beautiful things in a marriage.
Uncle, when Babu uncle, जॾहिं आई चुआ कि है न आई ई सपोर्ट कर लाइक अने न त प्रिफर करो वरना वधारे डिवोर्स थी न त आई जॾहिं आई वटि अचनि था त आई ई कोन्हे नथा करो कि आई इनखे फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस ॾियो इनखे की हुनर सेखारियो ताकि इन्हें खुद जे पकते हुन एंड गिव देम दैट सपोर्ट उतरी टाइम तक इनखे सपोर्ट ॾियो जॾहिं तक इनखे न की अची वञे so that I feel is really needed because financial independence is very very important nowadays for a woman.
Assalamu alaikum. But I just to touch base on this particular subject, this comes under the Zakat committee. Presently in the Zakat committee, we have 4 projects going. One is a medical support, education support, housing support, and self-employment. And one of our donors, mentors, our biggest supporter, Seema's father-in-law, M.H. uncle, he has been always telling us to see how we could reduce the zakat recipients in the community, not to open the doors more than what we are doing. So that is one thing we always keep in mind, not to increase the recipients. Because what happens is, people come out more to the open now as zakat recipients, and then though they don't feel it now, time to come, when the children are going to get married, proposals come, it becomes difficult. So we try to keep it very silent. The second thing, just to inform all of you all, that when imagine we're talking of a divorce, supporting divorce, there are widows, the husbands die. 99% people are helping them. The families, the immediate families are helping them. We do it very privately. Just to give you an example, I can't tell names, there is an open donor who has told us that whenever there is a death, husband dies and the widow is suffering for financial help during the Idda period, just to tell him, not to mention the name also, he will send rations to the house for the 4 months. It's open like that. Same way, when there are cases like this, what Sahid brought it up, 99% the families help. The moment we open it here, every month they come to take a payment or whatever it is, then the children who are studying, they have kids who are studying, they also might give up. So what we do is, now, we definitely, when they come for financial help, for education or medical, then we definitely see if they're in difficulty, we give them, whether they be a divorcee or a widow, we help them. But once we start handing out cash to them, we don't know where it can end up. And like Babu said, our only worry is whether, like he says, sometimes time can patch up a marriage, but they think, no, don't worry, we'll take the divorce and we have association to help us. Even this instance when Sahid sent, what Babu and the other gentlemen in the committee have decided to help her for 6 months personally, not from the zakat funds, but we don't want to open another subheading, divorcee financial assistance. That can open the floodgates. So we told that lady, for 6 months we will help you personally. That is Babu and the other gentlemen from personal funds, they are doing it. But yes, if you see, 10 years ago we didn't have this in our community. I don't think there was a single Maiman sister or a lady who used to cook superb food, do catering business. But now, alhamdulillah, a lot of young ladies are doing catering business, not only in difficulty, as a side income to keep themselves occupied, and that has picked up. And I think most of us, we order this food, everything from these ladies and the young girls. So what we've told these ladies, and I'm sure 99% of the ladies can cook beautiful food. There's no doubt about it. So we've told this, for 6 months we will help you. You please get ready to do self-employment, where we help. So they come out of that zakat thing, which for the next 10, 20 years they won't live on it. So then we can give them money to buy deep freezers, buy fridge, buy cookers or whatever it is, and get self-employed, then they're out of zakat. So definitely that is there. But we don't want to open another subheading, that divorcee financial assistance, because that doesn't look nice to the community as well. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Jafar Bha. Thank you, Khatija. Okay, so let's go into the, we are, going away from a lot of discussion, and, we are short of time. So, okay, let me, take the gentleman's advice and go on to this topic of love in a marriage. So, to the panelists, how important do you think is the role of love in a marriage? Who would like to answer that? How important is the role of love in a marriage? And Nida, I'm going to put you in the spotlight. How would you define love?
I think that I don't want to say I don't agree with that the role of love in marriage is not important, because obviously that's not true. But I think what's more important is that every couple decides what's important to them in their marriage. So you don't look at kind of other people, you don't compare your marriage to other people. I pote marriage ke compare na karo be se I movies na ro ne socha ke hing khape ya hing kariyo pe ya miji friend jo husband hing kari ne mujo husband hi na kari. So you don't think about that, but you think that this is your spouse and this is who I am and what works for us, what is important to the two of us. And I'd also like to touch on something Sheikh said earlier about the provision of knowledge, which I completely agree with, and that was going to be my answer as well, that you tell two young people to just get married. Even if you go to a new school, the first day is orientation. They give you a guidebook, they give you this, they give you that. But for marriage, which is one of the most important things that you could do in your life, there is no guidance. Okay, this is what can go wrong, or this is how to deal with it if it goes wrong. And even you can tell them, okay, these are the rights of the woman and these are the rights of the man in Islam. But how do you ask about those rights? You can't just tell your husband, this is my right, give me this, give me this. You need to tell somebody, this is how you approach a topic like finances or something like that, which is really difficult to talk about. So there is no kind of knowledge system or guidance system for young couples, which I think is a big gap in our community, and which is something we've been talking about trying to fill. But again, I think my advice based on limited experience will always be that I think every couple should decide what is important to them. Maybe for some couples it's not marriage, maybe it's not love, it's respect, it's kindness, it's something else. So don't compare your marriages to others, basically.
Coming to the, Sheikh, you want to say something?
This question related to what you said, it may continue if I can.
Yes, sure.
Okay, let me explain this through a verse of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is from His signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created pairs amongst you, so males for females. And thereafter he says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. So there are two Arabic words here. One is mawadda and the other is rahma. And Allah says, it is He who put mawadda and rahma between the two of you. The basic English translation for this is, mawadda is love and rahma is mercy. Scholars interpret this verse saying, when a person is married, when he's newly married, that's the phase where there is a natural attraction towards the partner because of the physique or whatever. That is the initial stages of the marriage, newlywed. The second part, which is rahma, mercy, is when it surfaces at the latter part of the marriage, which is nearly dead. Right? So newlywed is a moment, like somebody said, you start getting the fragrance of perfumes and all those things inside the room. Nearly dead is a time you start sensing the odor of balm and medicine. So mawadda and rahma, which the Quran speaks about, each couple can enjoy it. Each couple can enjoy it, and that is guaranteed by not an ordinary human being. The Creator says He will put it into them. That is where the secret ingredient of barakah lies. The Arabic word barakah means something which grows, and it grows beyond expectation. The word barakah, one of the meanings is something which grows and beyond expectation. Scholars also give another meaning for the word barakah. When the camel kneels down and settles on the sand, if you have noticed, we don't live with camels, but if you look at pictures, it settles into the sand. So when a person gets barakah in his marriage, he will see something which the love keeps growing beyond expectations, and that love is strong as well at the same time. To understand this simply, let me simplify this. A scholar said, all of us play Legos, right? Our little ones at home, we play Legos. So imagine we take one piece after the other and we form a tower. At one point, this tower is to fall. All of us will agree on that, isn't it? When barakah comes in, your foundation of that Lego is so strong, even though the tower goes high and high, still the foundation is so strong, this will not fall. So when barakah comes into the marriage of a person, the love keeps growing, and it will always be healthy, inshallah.
Okay, so coming to the topic of guidance, I've always had this question as to why there is such a taboo to premarital counseling. So, Seema, we did this course, and that's what we were talking about. And after we finished the course, also we talked to parents of children who were going to get married, and we even said about the course we did with Sheikh Ismat. But the thing was, that nobody was willing. So many years back, our parents just got us married. It was like they pushed you into the deep end of the ocean, and then you learn to swim. So it was that kind of a feeling. You discover the surprises, and you deal with the surprises, and those kind of things. But now we have this, but still parents want to do that, push them into the deep end of the ocean. So what do you have to say to that?
Before I answer your question, I'd like to ask you a question. Now, I know, okay, I like to step back a little bit and become more traditional in this approach. Like you said, your parents pushed you into the deep end, you got married, alhamdulillah, married for 32 years. Same thing with me, and I think same thing with everybody else. And I presume majority of the people here are having a successful married life, not without problems. Marriage is, if you ask me what marriage is, I would say it's about give and take. And there is no one person at fault. You can't clap with one hand. That's what I tell everybody. You can't clap with one hand. It's there. But I'm not saying no for pre-conception, but I'm saying if you take in this room, if majority of the people here have married, are successfully married, without any pre-counseling, why do you want to have pre-counseling now?
Because...
okay, let's ask a question here. How many people, I don't know, maybe it may be embarrassing question, how many people here have actually gone for pre-counseling before their marriage? How long have you been married? No, how long have you been married?
I think
Let's ask
Shahid
Sumaya.
is
No, no, I'm just
demonstrating.
asking a question.
Want to go.
1 second. Shahid is demonstrating an answer to your question, Aisha.
Yeah.
So could you explain more about your reservation towards
No, I'm not saying.
premarital counseling?
You see, I'm not having any reservations. Okay, I also sometimes think it's good, it's necessary.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think we seems to tend to think that okay, this problem is because there is no pre-counseling, and probably yes, pre-counseling may help with having less divorces. Now, if you look at the Catholic Church, you cannot get married in a Catholic church unless you go through a counseling session. But do they have less divorces than us? Probably not.
I mean, we don't know. We have to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So, no, my question is not that I'm against it. It's just that I like to throw spanner in the wheel and say, okay, is pre-counseling actually the answer or is it necessary?
See, I don't know.
I am not having answer. I'm just throwing a question.
I would like to answer. So I, like you, Shahid, I'm not saying that premarital counseling is the be-all and end-all and has to happen, but just based on relationship research, which is fairly new and which is coming out now, and which personally makes a lot of sense to me. I feel there are very valuable things that we can teach young people about relationships, which will be very helpful to them. And not only to the young people, even to parents, like you were saying about being independent. Now the community is taking it upon themselves to help people become independent. We parents must see that our children are all independent, that our daughters can stand on their own 2 feet, our sons can stand on their own 2 feet, that they are earning enough to support a family before we get them married. So we have to make them strong. And you were asking about a framework and counseling and all of that. So when I think the strongest marriage is between two strong people. If they are strong within themselves, and you said that being married for you is a journey of self-discovery, that's true. We really have to be able to shine the kind of floodlight on ourselves and see what's happening for me in this marriage. I really can't. So just that ability to do that when there is trouble, how do I face that? I think we need to strengthen ourselves, our children, in that way, I think.
Shahid, pella ee na phone wo na social media wo badinge sabar wo hane koi sabar ne gane jane ke to
So no, can I say this in addition to what? Can I add to what Saidbhai said? Today what has happened is there is no incompatibility. Marriages are important when there is compatibility. If both are compatible, things are easy. Mrs. Ashraf said that each person should be strong. Strongness comes with compatibility. If there is a wide difference, I'm sure Saidbhai will agree with me today, recently, just 2 weeks ago, divorce took place because there are no incompatibility. And so much so that the parents wanted the gifts that were given during the marriage. And he had a time solving that problem. So counseling will be necessary in order to bring about better relationship. That is the main thing.
I agree with you.
Yes. Counseling should be done, frankly, before marriage. Maybe proposals come. Today, most of the marriages, yes, a few love marriages do take place. But those also break. But other than that, if it is a proposal, and if there is incompatibility, the parents should know. So more than the children counseling, the parents should be told.
I agree with you.
Parents should be told, where is your son, where is the daughter-in-law to be?
And how can you support them?
That's the important
How can you
thing.
support both of them?
But today we are seated here, and I'm very happy Babubai said, don't talk of divorce, talk of the good things. Good things are, please, before you even take your proposal of your son, it is the sons you chokre ji gal gadi no hunda na pa. पा उन्हों ता छोकरी
हाणे छोकिरी वारा नथा अॻियां वधनि?
वधनि
I'm
था
curious.
न वधनि था बहुत little
Little, okay.
बहुत little percentage wise very little. So first counseling is necessary. Counseling before marriage, after marriage is important. But more important is don't rush into divorce. My sincere advice to the learned Qazi seated in front of me, with all his experience, don't rush into divorce.
Yeah,
I have given, in one case, after 20 years of experience, in one case I gave 4 years. 4 years, the Board of Qazis found fault with me, but I didn't give the divorce for 4 years, and after 4 years they patched up. They patched up, and not only patched up, they were happy that the children were quite big. So the children were happy that I gave the parents such a long time and didn't enter into divorce. So when it comes to a problem in the family, I would suggest the parent should immediately step in. Maape bera thi ne chokri ghane halivne thi. Don't give too much of time for the gap. Try and resolve it as soon as possible. And happy that Kayaklin line does a lot of help in that. So I would suggest make an awareness of this community. I'm happy Aisha Babi and Neelam and them, they're doing a good job. At that time when I was a Qazi, I didn't have the support of that. There was no counseling. There was nobody. And honestly, I had to bring assessors. And that's how Jafar and Babu and a couple of others whom we started with. And I didn't want to flout the law by bringing a lady. But what I used to do is I had 2 ladies. And I used to tell the girl, please go and speak to those 2 ladies. And they'll report to me independently. I did that too. So she was not an assessor. But independently, I was getting information from the lady, and I think Mrs. Ashraf will remember there was a lady from overseas marriage, and they came to me, and that's how we packed up the marriage. Now, 10 more years have gone, and they have another baby, and things are happy. So I would say counseling is very important, and counseling should be taken as soon as possible. Don't let the girl be and the parent, the couple be away for long. If it is long, then the distance is break ke baad.
Yeah, I agree with you. But just I want to Sumaya has something to say.
Okay, can we bring in Sumaya? Because she wants to add on to this. Sumaya, you say about the focus group also you conducted, yeah.
Yes. So again, I think very important question is that do we need premarital counseling or not? And I think even while we were doing this training for the 10 sessions, even like I used to come back to Aisha Aunty and say, you know, there's so many people telling me that they have gone through their marriage very successfully without having premarital counseling. And I used to, because I do a lot of focus group discussions and a lot of research. So checking with young people and, you know, asking them, would you all go for a premarital counseling? And then they're like, you know, why do we need to open up everything before marriage when we can go step by step and learn everything in the process? Why do you want to open a can of worms right before marriage? Like, why do you have to do all of that? Why do you want to talk about finances? Why do you want to talk about families and all of that before marriage? Now, the reason a lot of people feel that psychologically, the main reason is that we're scared. We are scared to be that open. We are scared to be vulnerable like that because it means like you're opening your entire self up and talking about everything that is important to you. Anke jo anje mein important hai, anke jo khappe to karo vyasi and your partner see, but ghar karno easy nahi. It's not at all easy. It's very difficult. And that is why we are so scared. The reason now, Aishan, you asked why are we so scared of counseling and therapy? It's because it means you have to be 100% honest. You have to be truthful to yourself. You have to be truthful to your partner, and that takes a lot of courage. And it's very difficult to do, but it's very important. Agar I and your partner just start vulnerable need yo. Agar I and your partner can need you and kuro khape to and what you want in life, how you want to be treated, and how they want to be treated in return. How will you go on to live an entire life with them? They are your life partner at the end of the day. अगर आई जो partners साथ आई बदे व्यान जो अग्या discuss नहीं करो, like you don't have to bombard them with them like say this is what I want, this is what you need, oh I need to be treated like this. No, it's all about love and respect. Again it comes here. And जो relationship पे इनके love करो important है. How do you define love? So if you define love with respect, so you respect each other, you respect each other's families. So you ghani cheezein hondi ghar kar le, and they're all not negative. What they do is they break down those barriers, they break down your egos, and they make you one with each other. So in CHNA, tharkanjo na to, yeah, but everybody is scared. Counseling is usually the last resort people come to. But this is something available. You want, you can come in. It's not forced on anyone. But we just want to make this service available to our community, so the ones who think they want this can always come for it. Whether pre-marriage, post-marriage, or years after being married. Just have this service, and that you're here. We are here to support you in terms of that. So that's just
Seema
something I
wants to
wanted
add something to that.
A big Maiman dictum is ghar chi ghal bara na nikri khape. So it's very frightening to have to, like for example, my own mother might think, oh my God, if my daughter is going to see a counselor, what will she say about me? So that's another reason why it can be very frightening. And I had another thought, but it's gone. It's okay.
Seema, confidentiality also, about which we spoke. A lot of people are afraid that things will, get out if they come to a counselor. So again, we come to that topic, that how do you maintain confidentiality when somebody comes to you?
It is difficult, but that's a big part of the training. Counseling Karanji training major pello e boito ke you cannot discuss what happens between you and the client in the room it's not to be disclosed. But having said that, it is very, very difficult because the psychologist or the counselor is bound to that contract of confidentiality, but not so the client. The client is free to discuss what happens in the session, and it's a small community here, so somebody, that you meet somebody socially will say, oh, I know so-and-so came to you. So it is very challenging, but we really, really try. I think we do really, really try. Not, yeah. And
Please say that in Maimani, so
Assam, हाँ, असांजी पूरी कोशिश आहे कि असां कोई इन जी लाइफ जे बारे में असांखे चूना त असां कोई के भी वो ॻाल्हि नहीं करूं. हजी सुधी त वो कंप्लेंट आवियो नहीं असांखे कि आवां खे चुमी ॻाल्हि ऐं कुलाई करिया किॾाई बि. Yeah, so far we've not faced that problem. But I can tell you from my experience, it is a very human mistake. Pa insan nahi ho, insan ji fitrat hai. So we have to be very, very careful about that.
To add, Nida?
Can I
you
add
have
something?
anything
Okay.
to add? Yeah.
Let me go back to the previous question about premarital counseling. Now, sometimes it is new to our culture, but the fact is, in our traditions, we see even the Tabi'un have spoken about it. I mean, the successors of the Sahaba. There is a lady by the name Umama bint Haris. You can go on Google and search. She gave 10 advices to her daughter on the day of the marriage. She didn't live recently. She lived over 1,200 years ago. And all of us know Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, one of the Imams of the Madhab. He taught his son. He gave 10 advices to his son on the day of his son's wedding. What does this teach us? Islam has highlighted the importance of premarital counseling. Maybe back in the days, it didn't exist as something like these type of wordings, but it was there, it was existing. And if you come down, I would recommend even anyone getting married here, if you are really busy, if you're a husband or a wife, just go online, search for the 10 advisors and follow that. Inshallah, your marriage will be preserved. No, I have not memorized that, to be honest with you. Right? So I can't recall all 10, but you can go online and search, it's available. The next point which I would like to highlight is, now all of us agree to the fact that if we are starting up a business, we are supposed to learn the Islamic ethics on that. It's compulsory for a Muslim to learn that if he's doing business. Similarly, if he's getting into marriage, he is supposed to learn about how he or she needs to conduct themselves. Because on the day of Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us, how did you play the role as a husband? From a wife, Allah will ask, how did you play the role of a wife? That's mentioned in the hadith. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. So if there is a question on the day of Qiyamah about being a husband and wife, what does it teach us? It is indicating that this is a vital part in your life, that you will be questioned about it. So how can a person answer to Allah without having proper knowledge about it? So Islamically too, it is premarital counseling is wajib, I would say, compulsory. And if you look at the scholars of our times, we see like Imam Majid in the US, he has authored a book on this, along with another female counselor, which I don't recall her name. And there's another Imam, a Mufti, a famous Mufti who came to Sri Lanka, I think a couple of years back as well, before COVID, if I remember right. Mufti Abdurrahman Mangera from England. He has written a wonderful book, keeping all the contemporary issues, and he has been in the US, in the UK, in different parts of the world, South Africa, keeping all those contexts in place. Different cultures, people from different walks of life. And I would recommend you to read that as well, A Healthy Muslim Marriage. That's the name of the book, Healthy Muslim Marriage. The PDF is not available, but if you can purchase it online, it's wonderful. It's around 250 to 300 pages. It's a wonderful read. Now what I'm trying to highlight here is, whether premarital counseling is a need of the hour or not, all these contributions made by different Muslim scholars, and even the pious predecessors, it's a clear highlight that all of us are answerable to Allah, and we need to face Allah on the day of Qiyamah with the right way that we have fulfilled the duties properly.
Can I just add one thing to that? Something that you said earlier about Muwadda and Rahma. Yeah, so it's what you said was that we already come with that wired in. It's already there. God has put it inside of us. And I do believe that. I believe that every human being is good and pure. And we lose touch with that beauty inside ourselves. So counseling is one way to get back in touch with that, to rekindle it, so to speak.
And my experience by conducting marital programs, a few years back I got a client who had taken part in one of our marriage programs. Now somebody might wonder, okay, you took part in a premarital counseling session and then you're going for counseling? Come on, that means something is wrong. Either the person didn't study right or the person who taught didn't teach the right thing. One of the two. But when we handle the case, I tend to realize that the brother was prepared to look from his angle, what do I need to do to make the marriage better? That was something which we were able to program through the course, where the individual starts to question him or herself, that what do I need to do to make the marriage work? Whereas, I'm not saying I don't generalize it, but that the chances of a person who doesn't follow a particular course or a study, they tend to think, what is the other person supposed to do to make the marriage better? Perceptions change. Now, when we read marriage books, whether its authors are Muslims or not, there are books like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gottman's book, and Gary Chapman's Love Language. When you read these books, and including the other books I have mentioned, a person tends to realize it's a self-evaluation. Where do I stand in the marriage? So when a person is able to self-evaluate him or herself, that helps them to troubleshoot issues in their marriage in the most I would say the appropriate way. Respectful way, okay. So I think premarital counseling is important, and we need to promote it and get youngsters involved in it.
Can I just add one more dimension to it from a very layperson perspective? Okay. Meman mene chao. Mike chota samjhaile. Right, okay. What did you say? You talked about, okay. So, Sheikh Ruzegi chunta ke premarital vyanja pella counseling kulle vyo khape. Panja jo ancestors wa, jo sahaba jab aada wa, ine bhi advice kariya in કે વ્યાન પેલા ભલે ફોર્મેટ મેં ના આવો અકરો સિલેબસ તરીકે ના આવો બટ એને જે મા પે એને જે બચ્ચે કે એડવાઇસ કર્યા કે તું વ્યાન જે પહેલા એ બધે કર્યો ખપે કરીને તો એ કી નવી ચીજને એ એચને પહેલે જ ટાઈમથી થી જ રહ્યો હોય બસ આને અકરો ફોર્મેટ ને અકરો ફોર્મલ તરીકેથી થી રહ્યો હોય એન્ડ એટ ધ સેમ ટાઈમ अगर आइन काउंसलिंग उनोता के इनले ना के कोई मिलले करो करी सी के आउ ई व्यान लेकने करो करी तो सिगा मिजो मैरिज वर्क थे इनले कने आउ करो करी तो सिगा मांजी नीदर सिस्टर भी जो आके इट्स जर्नी ऑफ सेल्फ डिस्कवरी के पा पोते के पहला ओरखो पहले पा पोते के ओरखी ने पा ई मैरिज में करो करते सिगो उनजे बात पा पार्टनर के बारे में सोचने तेला करने ने चूता के प्रीमैरिटल काउंसलिंग आई थिंक कवर्ड व्हाट यू सेड राइट या सो जस्ट टू ऐड समथिंग फ्रॉम माय पर्सपेक्टिव आई थिंक अगेन कंप्लीटली a different dimension to why premarital counseling is important, and expect Shahid Ba to always ask questions that open a can of worms. That's normal of him. I'll try and say this, Memen. Nane naro, our 30s mein ya, ida kro vado big generational spectrum mein ida. You have those who are born in the 60s, 70s, then you have those who are born in the 80s, 90s, and then you have the youngsters of the late 90s and 2000s who are about to get married. I see a few young guys over here. MashaAllah, good that you came for this. The way Aishanti, you were brought up, Anis uncle, you were brought up by your parents, and the way I was brought up by my parents was completely different. And the way the kids are brought up now is even more different. Subhanallah, we pamper our kids. We spoon feed them. We absolutely give them everything they need. And when they are 20, we get them married. Mother has been doing everything for this boy since childhood, since birth, and now we expect him to live with another person. Can he cope immediately? No. So my way of thinking is this is one of the reasons why you need premarital counseling, because the way our generations worked is different. In Anis uncles and Aisha auntie's generation, I'm sure they must have been very mature at a younger age. You know, at 16, 17, you're probably taking life decisions. But if you ask me to take a life decision at 18 years old, I'll be like, Mummy, make help karo, you know. And yeah, kids nowadays are even more difficult. You know, even if they are 21, they're still mummy's boy. So this is why the present generation, more than anyone else, definitely requires premarital counseling. People ask me, Samir ba, vyan tira jo Allah vaste kya line teliu no pe jarak sikhi gino. Pachi na chuta ke meji bairi choiti ke me pakai nati de nei pakai jo kam ne bhale pakai de khara ti tai sari gal hai that she's doing it out of her good heart, but please learn something about it. That's all I wanted to add.
I'm very sorry I'm taking much of your time. No, there are instances where couples after getting married they have issues in the marriage. Then they're hesitant to go for counseling, just to console them. Even during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, marital counseling took place in the masjid. There was an instance, a Sahabi woman, a Sahabiya, she comes to the Prophet and complains about her husband. And the Prophet ﷺ listened to her entire story, and then he summoned the husband. And he said, you know, your wife is complaining against you. And what's the reason? Then he mended the relationship, the counseling session was done. The lesson to be learnt is, okay, today we have a counseling center, but in Medina, 1,400 years ago, masjid was a counseling center as well. So I think if masajid can come forward with the initiative where we can have a setup for the brothers and the sisters, that will be a community center and it's a huge service as well.
I just have to add something here, is that I've noticed in our community, the women are a lot forward to, you know, coming and working on the marriage and relationship of just before the marriage as well. And all this, you know, before marriage, taking these counseling sessions, I'm 100% sure, kind of, I feel, that the women will really step forward and come. But most of the time, when it comes to boys, the young boys, and their mothers start influencing. Hi, to kya kule ero karno hai, kro thiyo, asa yu na tole kane. And that, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. What happens is that in our, most of the times, the mothers, they feel like, oh my God, why should my son be taking all this? I mean, we are here for you. Why would you want to go forward with that? That is one thing that I even, before you were mentioning about even in marriages, the couple counseling and everything, and I was just questioning myself, if there is an issue, it's usually the woman who is stepping forward. Do you have men coming? And sometimes both the couples are not even coming. Most of the time I've seen that the woman is coming forward ahead to, sort the matter. Then how do you deal when the woman is coming for counseling to you and the man is disappeared? He's like, nah, he has his ego and his pride, and he's like, no, I'm not going to come forward for this. You can go ahead and deal with this marriage. Try to do whatever you want to do. So how do you deal with that?
There are 2 points in her question, what I understood.
That's
Number
right.
1 is, why don't men come forward, whereas the women take a lot of initiatives? Number 2 is, when a woman comes forward, how do you get the man involved? 2 things. So the first thing, I agree with you 100%. With the help of Allah, I have been conducting my premarital course for over 850 participants. And I can easily say 50%, or more than 50% of sisters. But I have hope that when we increase the awareness about the importance of this, our communities will respond. The current batch which I'm doing, the online sessions which are being conducted now, this is the first time we have got, totally we have 25 participants at the moment. And out of the 25, we have 11 men. Again, women are more. But still, the good thing I saw in that is, we see that engaged couples are in the program. Engaged couples. So there are 3, I wouldn't call them couples, there are 3 engaged pairs who are taking part. And there are another 3 couples who are married who are taking part in the course as well. Which I see, compared to the previous batches, it is growing. But the only thing is we need awareness. Inshallah, through awareness, I believe we can make this education, this premarital counseling reach to Maimans or Moors or Malays or whoever it is. That's number 1. Number 2 is, if a sister walks in for counseling and the brother is not coming. We have had experiences in Caroline. A couple of years back, our system was, if one of them comes in, we will call the partner saying that, your partner has come for counseling, you need to come. So we make a request, we don't demand. Then there was an instance I had to face where the brother walks into the counseling center and into my room, and he doesn't take a seat. And he was very tough on me. He said, how dare you call me for counseling? Right? And I had to tell him, brother, you can sit down. No, I don't want to sit. You first respond to me. Why did you call me for counseling? How did you get my contact number? And I have to maintain my cool as well. And alhamdulillah, he sat. And I had to deal with him for a few minutes. And alhamdulillah, he opened up. I'm not exaggerating. The brother had anger issues. So I mostly deal with family-related issues. So I had to send him to our clinical counselor. We had over 7 counseling sessions with that particular couple. Now, what can a woman do in a situation where the husband is not coming? One thing, in Caroline, we prioritize the mental health of the person. If a woman is undergoing abuse, or she is not living a relationship where she's satisfied, first we need to focus about, first aid is to bring her to the safe zone. That should be our priority. And then ask her to do certain homework, inshallah, where the husband might start thinking about working on the marriage. Some areas we highlight mainly for such clans is, get your partner to realize the importance of working on the marriage. So let's say they have children. So try to get the message across to your partner about the importance of working on the relationship. It's not pointing fingers at each other. You are wrong, you are the troublemaker, you are the, Instead, let's make our relationship better. By that we see there are some men who get convinced, because you show the bait is the children, You show the children, let's go for it. Or sometimes couples bring their children for counseling, and then we get the fathers involved. Now, without his knowledge, he gets couple counseling sessions. The problem is not with the child. The problem is between the couple. Now they become receptive to accept what we say. So unofficially, it became a couple counseling session, and it's like one stone, you get 2 mangoes. So sometimes the counselor has to act smart, and sometimes the client also has to play their part. By that, inshallah, to some extent, we can get the men also involved actively in counseling.
I have a theory. I don't know how successful it is and how true it is even, but it's a theory in my head. that if I say that my husband needs counseling, uh, or let's say that my father needs counseling or my child needs counseling, if I have that conviction, then obviously it's almost a foregone conclusion that that person is not ready to go to counseling. So my thing is that if you are so convinced that somebody else in your family needs counseling, you come in for counseling. You come in for counseling, and with the changes that you can make from your side in that environment, somebody should become curious about counseling and somebody should say, wow, what has happened to you? Like, I want for myself what you got from counseling. So it's a pipe dream, it's a theory.
So,
Aisha,
just if I add
Sorry.
something, yes, sending men to counseling is always difficult. Whenever this comes to me, a lot of the times men will say, I don't want to go for counseling. Why should I go for counseling? There is nothing wrong with me. I do a little bit of arm twisting wrongly. I say, if you don't go for, you have to go for counseling because I can order you to go for counseling, which I can't, but they don't know that. So I tell them, you can, if you don't go for counseling, they do now. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I actually sometimes force them. And they do grudgingly. So I remember an instance where it was a wife was a Mehman, husband was a Mo. Husband is the one who actually came to me complaining about the wife. And then I had 2 or 3 sessions and I asked them for going for counseling. The wife went for counseling, she called and said the husband is not going. Then I told the husband, no, you have to go because you came to me to solve the problem and you must go. If you don't go, I can't solve this problem. So I told him to go. So he goes for the counseling and he calls me from the counseling center and he says, Haji, this lady wants me to pay 1,000 rupees. So I said, so what's the problem? It's not my problem, so why should I pay 1,000 rupees? I'm not going to pay 1,000 rupees. So I told him to give the phone to the counselor. I told the counselor, you please tell him he doesn't have to charge. I will pay. You do the counseling for him. So then he had gone for 3 counseling sessions. He did not pay. So the 3rd counseling session, the lady called me and said, this gentleman has come. He has still not paid. What shall I do? So I said, okay, fine, doesn't matter. Let me know your bank account. I will send you I'll transfer the money. I transferred the money and I forgot about the whole thing. And then she also didn't report to me, nothing happened. Then maybe a week or 2 later, at about 10:30 in the night, I get a call from this gentleman saying that he's at Golfes with his wife. Now everything is okay. Thank you for sending for counseling. I told them that is not enough. You have to now come and close the file and that finish this. The file is still not closed. They never came to me. This is about 3-4 years ago. But sometimes, alhamdulillah, things work that way as well.
What a lovely story, really.
Hold on. Oh, sorry, Uncle. Just Sumaya wants to answer this question. Sumaya?
Can you all see me? Can you all hear me? I think, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I think one of the big misconception is that men don't go and seek help. They have their own ways of seeking help and they do seek help. It's just different to how women would want to go and do. It's a very big misconception that men don't seek help. Now, I can, from experience, tell you I have a lot of men coming in and seeking help and talking about different issues. And if you look at research, there are so many men who go for support groups, and women even don't try to attend to a support group. So there is a different way in which men do seek help. They either go through their close friends and they talk about the issues there. They probably are not open about saying that they go and seek help, and that we live in an environment where men tend to sort of taught to be strong and not need help. So they rarely come and tell you that they go and find help and they go and seek help. They're not open about that. उनके बारे में openly गाल ना था करन, लेकिन men also go and seek help. इन्हें जो तरीके से ये seek help करन था, whether it's the right help, whether it's the wrong help, it really depends. But it definitely they also try. But I think the best way, like very rightly Simanti also mentioned, that if we want them to sort of, if you feel like there's someone who needs that sort of support, who needs that sort of help, it has to first start from you. You go for that counseling, you explain to them. And if your husband is not coming for counseling or any kind of therapy, you tell them that you're going for this, and then you come and tell them what they also told. So I recently had a couple where this girl had gone through a lot of trauma in your life. में घणो इनके sexual abuse थियो when your family members see. So now she was projecting all of that to her husband, and it was affecting in your relationship, and they were having relationship issues. Now, e pote mijete avivi to how can I handle my marriage from here onwards? E mijo relationship kya ki set karni gini na. So, and then the husband was questioning कि therapist तो केकरो चाहिए कि तो जो मगज नदी खराब करे ना, because her previous therapist did something like that, and he questioned if the therapist was right or wrong. So इन्हें के लगनो कि therapist एरो की समझाई थी कि ऐसे ने एरो करो ऐ ही करो. So they were feeling very imbalanced. They don't know what is going on because इन्हें के ता खबर नहीं करो थी वो जाने जे विच में. So what we did was, we came across a dynamic ke Anshum, ke you sit and tell him everything I'm telling you. A to Z, you sit and talk to him, you tell him this is what my therapist is saying, this is what I should try, this is what I should do. And Alhamdulillah, now I think it's been 4 to 5 months she hasn't spoken to me. And she messaged me just day before yesterday saying, I really want to send you something because everything is going so well. I'm so happy in my marriage. And that was to do with her trauma being projected on her husband and affecting their relationship. So you have to be open. Agar your husband nato ache, it's okay. You tell him what you've been taught. And as long as your therapist saro and your counselor saro hai, ubi anke ero anke explain karno ke don't go and startle him with any new idea that your therapist is taught. Take it slowly, step by step. What do you want to do? You want to fix your marriage? You want to be happy in your marriage? You want to take this and go on? So we'll do things keeping all of that in mind. Not to startle anyone, not to ruffle any feathers. And so one big misconception is that men don't seek help. Men in जो तरीके से they seek help. Maybe in जो surrounding को time में अगर helpful ना तो होए तो they come up with wrong solutions. But they do in their own way. They do. They're just scared because मारो इनके वरना आओ ने के चीने उबती ने चीज़ सिगन के मिके चीने help खपे तो. It's difficult for men to do that in our culture, in our South Asian community. It's tough for them to do that. It's not easy. Because we've been taught that they're perfect, they need to keep it together, they can't have a flaw. So it's difficult for them. So sometimes we just need to forget about what they can do or how they can do, and we have to look at what we can do now. We improve from here onwards. What can I do? What is in your control? So I think that's the approach we need to take, and we should try and discourage the conversation about men not seeking help, because the more we keep saying that, the more they will get defensive. So I think that is one way. It is the reality that they can't do it, but there are reasons as to why they feel like that. So not to encourage that behavior, but just to be mindful of it and do what you can do.
Yeah,
that's
thank
all
you.
from mine.
I think Uncle has a question.
I think that day, Aisha, Babu was suggesting that these sessions will continue. We all have some repeat courses or repeat workshops. Why not you all have ladies and gents separate? I want to ask something I can't. My wife is. I'll go back home with my wife. So how will I be able to ask some questions?
Counseling, Uncle, counseling.
I'm just joking.
Caroline.
I'm joking. That's just a joke. I will say something in Memani. Sorry, brother. I'll translate after the program. We are talking of pre-counseling, pre-marriage counseling, right? आखिरी चीज पांच याद रखियो अपनो कि counseling हाँ pre-marriage counseling या parents counseling करन या पान बाहर counseling ना उन्हों marriage जपेला आखिरी चीज पांच रख बले पानी workshop भी करूँ था young girls like जो अलावा parents के भी workshop बहुत जरूरी है इन लाइक counseling लगभग इलियास बार ने साइट पे कंफर्म करना जो पेरेंट्स घर में लड़न था ना इन्हें बच्चे पे भी असर थे तो most parents whose families are not doing well, it goes into the children's life as well. Where the father has seen, the son has seen the father abusing the mother, so he feels it's right doing it to his wife. The wife sees that my mother talks back to the father, so she feels that I can talk back to the husband. So that is a auto pre-marriage counseling. माँ पे भी घर में ध्यान रखियो हो पे कि बच्चे साथ बार ना लड़ो, अकरबे के खराब word ना बोलो, right? Not use bad language. That helps because I know there are cases the son has told the wife, "What is it? My father has been hitting my." This hide is a proof for that. My father has been hitting my wife all these years. My mother, so what if I slapped my wife twice? So I think the parents also have to be careful how they handle things at home. That is one. Another thing, this is another advice with a lot of respect to all the judges. One other way of how to get close to the children, where auto counseling can happen, is because nowadays with the social media, ऐसी हालत है कि पिछले ज़माने में ये थी होगा अगर अकरो मील कम से कम डिनर रखो पूरी फैमिली वे ने बेगी खेनी भी आनी थे ना तो डिनर खेलना तो आधी कलाक फैमिली बारे में गाल करना न्यूज़ बारे में गाल करना अजकल पाम बहुत ही डिशू था पांचे घरे में राइट बच्चा चीज ने टेबल दे कन में ये पोट पियोनो सर्व करना रूम में खेलना वाइफ टीवी ने गाल करनी होनी husband cricket match na खेलो no so that auto counseling in the family doesn't happen. ये पाम parents समझियो हो पे make it a point कि पाम बदे at least one meal dining table the way ने phones ban करे ने have a meal. So that is another advice I would give the families. Third one, I think just since you all have started and you all having this counseling session, you all said you all don't have men, right? I think this is a good move. ये चालू करो why not have since you all have a group, you all can take 2 or 3 men who have, I don't know whether we have any young boys. No, I mean, I'm just giving the advice because like how, again, thanks to a lot of seniors in the community, we have this permanent Zakat committee. It has come under one umbrella. And now what happens is everybody has started supporting that everything comes through that committee. I think without naming marriage problems or whatever it is, have a better name for it, counseling or pre-counseling, whatever it is, and successful marriage or whatever, and headed by Seema, Aisha, your team, get 2 or 3 youngsters who are experts in that field, and we as a community, we must support that group, that if there's a problem in the family, we must somehow make sure that they go to this counseling team, without having individuals, as much as possible. If there will be individual families solving the problems, right? So we all as a community should send it to this counseling team.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that.
one more thing, Seema, again, like I said, this is for the parents, right? Like Ilyas said, compatibility. And sometimes it's so sad that the parents give their daughters in marriage due to stress. Maybe when the girls are growing up, बच्ची बड़ी थी तो ना तेरे इतना स्ट्रेस थी तो उन्हें कि नॉर्मली थी तो को बच्चों 22-23 बजे थी नहीं हो 16-17 बजे बच्ची जो नात्र थी ना तो माया के स्ट्रेस को अच्छी तोड़े so at that time they can't be like they say beggars can't be choose नता करी सकें तो जो भी proposal अच्छे तो ना ये बच्ची का unfortunately sacrifice करी था उसे पर छोकरे में जब -point पे होना financially weak होना अब बच्चे ने 24 बजे थी भी है करी नो I think उड़ा माँ पे जरा हिम्मत रखियो हो पे अल्लाह पे भरोसा रखियो हो पे कि मुझे बच्चे लेकर ने आखिर अल्लाह मर्जी हो नहीं बट सेम वे बॉयज जब पेरेंट्स को भूल करन था वो खराब आदत करी है छोकरो गलत रास्ते तो उन्हीं रही है ये व्यांग कराई दियो तो ये बाहरी संभारी गिनी तो उड़ाज बहुत जरूरी है जरा प्रपोजल थी नो है ना तो बहुत जरूरी है बोए करो हम बोए करो चाहते
असांजे डिस्कशन में घना फेरी ई गाल अचे थी कि बस माँ पे के घनी सपोर्ट जी जरूरत है सो आई एग्री विद यू अ लॉट
Parents should set an example. That's the thing.
I agree with you there too.
The home is the best school.
Absolutely, and parents need support. They need help in today's times. I believe that parents need support.
we have one question. So this is a question that, yeah, it's anonymous. My question is that being married for almost 20 years and having teenage children, and if the husband doesn't show any feelings, he never buys any gifts, nor takes her out, only is bothered about the savings. What advice can you give? Write the list of positives.
I just said like what Babu sir said, ask her to write the list of positives first.
I want to listen to the... It's from a sister, right? It's from a sister.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to live in an environment where feelings are not shown. And I think it's more usual than unusual. Ghana feri the to, and it's in our, I don't know if it's Khali Panji community mein aaye ki it's more universal, but marwin ke to show feelings is difficult. And that's really, really difficult. So I would really say that acknowledge the difficulty that your husband is having around emotions, and first of all understand that difficulty of his, and gently begin to talk about your own emotions, gently, because my guess is that he will get frightened of emotions. So to really gently teach him that emotions are not a bad thing. Yeah, so there's no short answer to that, and I'm sure Sheikh Ismat has more to add.
Something to add to this. Sumaya? Briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. No, I think the question is obviously important. She must be really feeling it, and she must be really upset about it, which is why ero forum mein chine ero sawal puchiyen. I think first step is, yeah, you, like Seemanti said, sit and talk to your partner about it. Tell how you're feeling. Tell you're feeling that in a way, in a respectful, but at the same time you talk about how you're feeling. I likayo ma jo feel kari rahe ho. I ghal karo. The only way to resolve anything is to talk. So obviously pick a time that you think is good for both of y'all. I'm going ke nine sari time mein vene ghal karo. Agar question puchi rahe ho ta obviously anke boj affect kari rahe ho. So I please do talk and start. That would be your starting point. Is that have that conversation. And maybe talk about what is going on, not in an aggressive way. But to try and understand. Maybe I jo koi timing, pehla ji timing में जॾहिं कहिड़ो सारो फील कराया वो उनखे यादि ॾियाराइने छो कि मूंखे उहो टाइम वो यादि अचे थी पंहिंजो टाइम किॾा हली वियो अहिड़ो की सारे तरीक़े से मे बी यू कैन स्टार्ट द कॉन्वर्सेशन बट प्लीज स्टार्ट द कॉन्वर्सेशन अगर ऐं अंदरि रखी न वेठा हुन त उहो अॻियां नहीं वधे की सोल्यूशन नहीं थिए त ऐं प्लीज़ ॻाल्हि करिजा दैट्स व्हाट आई वुड वांट टू से
Right. To be honest, it's very difficult to give one straight answer to that question, because in English we call it different strokes for different folks. You can't have one uniform answer to it. So there are some questions a sister needs to ask herself. One is, from the time she got married to this person, is he the same? Has he never displayed, or haven't he ever exposed his emotions or feelings? If that is the case, it is something got to do with his personality, that person's issue. But was it recent past, maybe a couple of months back or a couple of years back? And that could be due to reasons. Maybe he's undergoing some, health complications. He's having certain, sicknesses inside, which he is unable to express his emotions. Could be, right? But from her angle, she needs to talk about it. She needs to talk about it. When it comes to talking about it, I know it's challenging. And most of the time, it will be useful if you can bring a third person into the equation. Could be a counselor, someone who can help the couple to vent out what they feel about the marriage, and that person, the arbitrator, will help them to look at things from a right perspective. Because sometimes when the couples try to work on their marriage on their own, if they lack communication skills, maybe they might think that they're working on the marriage, but that can lead to dangerous issues because they are not good in their communication skills. Because sometimes the other partner will already have perception about this person. So with that, they might approach their partner during communication about this particular subject. So there are a lot of things, but if the couple can go for a counseling session, that will be the ideal thing to do. That's priority number one. If it is, the second thing would be, on your own, try to look at the world from his perspective and see why is he doing this. If you find answers, okay, then work on a strategy with the help of a counselor where you go individually and meet them. And inshallah, then again I repeat, we can't have one uniformity for all cases, but maybe it can change.
Thank you. I think this is a really good answer, and I'll explain the question as much as I can in Mehman as well. इमें जो question आवो वो या सवाल जो आवो वो इचुआ के 20 वर्ष से शादी थी वी है and बच्चा भी हाने वड़ा थी वी है लेकिन हाने मारू मतलब हाने जो था खबर नहीं लेकिन मारू बायरी के हाने gifts ना था डीन या बाना किडा ना था कोटी विनन कारण कुरेला है कि पैसा नहीं चुनता मतलब बचाव करला है. So शेख करो चुनता के first thing is that पहली गाल ये है कि इमारू आने वीवर थी वे इन तो इमारू पहला से रो वो कि हाने थी भी वो ये रो ई जरा काय के सोचियो खपनो अगर पहला से ही वो तो पची खैर हालो वीवर तो निकरी वे इन I'm sure कि आई लोग मतलब पांके भी समझ पाई थी नहीं कि इना था करी सी गनी ने जितरो थी सी गए तो इतरो करंता इन जमते नहीं थे अगर है कि ही लगे कि ना ई हाने थी रही हुआ है तो पची कुरेला ही थी रही हुआ है सुमेय जरी चुई सीमा जरी चुई सीमा जरा चुआ के गाल करी नारो पूछो कि बापा इकरो इडो चेंज करो इडा थी भी हुआ है हाने कि अगर आई पहला ही बदे करना वा कि मजाच नहीं वे बेगा वेना वाई खेना वाई खिलना वाई हाने करो फर्क अच्छी भी हुए सो उनसे अगर थी विनो मारू के भी समझ पाई विन्नी कि हाँ जरा मारू शायद चुई भी दिनों के मुझे जरा की टेंशन ना है तो इन लाइक करी ने जरा प्रॉब्लम है whatever अगर ना ही ना वो मारू ही ना वो ने हाने थी भी हुआ या anything like that. Second thing is आई गाल करो अगर आइन से ना थे या के ही लगे कि बियो कोई हेल्प करी सके तो देन काउंसलर के इन्वॉल्व कर लाई ट्राई करो या थर्ड पर्सन त्रीजो मारू के इन्वॉल्व करो लेकिन त्रीजो मारू ही भी ना खपे कि अकरो कोई साइड गिनी सके त्रीजो मारू आउटसाइडर खपे ideally. I hope I explained that. I hope so.
Let me add one more point to that.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't know the password to enter into our partner. How to, like I think you mentioned about gifts and things like that. I just heard the English word there. So all of us know, like most of us are familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. If you go to lovelanguages.com, there is a test which all of us can do. And when you finish the test, you get to know what is your love language. Yes. So there are different tests. There are 3 tests. One test is for those who are in a relationship. The second test is for those who are having children. And the third test is for the teenagers. This author has written 3 different books: Love Languages for Children, Teenagers, and those who are in relationships. So I have seen, when working with youngsters too, sometimes youngsters don't know how to express, like they don't know what to expect from their parents. They don't know how to articulate that. So when they do this test, I show the results to the parents. And I tell them, okay, you need to work on giving productive, a lot of time with them. And when you read the book, you get a lot of tips. So whoever it is, including the sister who asked this, if you don't know the password to your husband, maybe to some extent, you can go and tell him, okay, you do your test and tell him, I feel very special when you do these things to me. Why don't you also just do the test? You're not going to a counselor. Test will take you about 15 to 20 minutes. I think that's good homework for all of us when you get back home, inshallah. Okay.
My husband's love language is acts of service, I have to tell you. He feels
so
loved.
you've checked it.
Acts of service are love language.
प्यार जी गाल
प्यार जी भाषा
प्यार जी भाषा अने निदा के फॉर एग्जांपल आऊं इनकी गिफ्ट दियां तो इनके लगे कि आई एम लव्ड मुझे सीमा प्यार करे थी बट आऊं मिकी कुरो लगे निदा मुझे लाइक ब्रेकफास्ट बनाए निगिनी अचे सवारजपुर में तो देन आई फील लव्ड सो मे बी निदा जी प्यार जी भाषा उन्हीं गेटिंग गिफ्ट्स बट मुंहिंजी प्यार जी भाषा है इफ समबडी डज मुंहिंजी कोई चाकरी करे सो Ashraf ji love language I chakri.
I think we should initiate a movement since we have a lot of weddings happening at MASL anyway. We bulk buy some of those books and distribute it free to all the couples.
It's available online.
I'm going to tell Yasin Bha to actually initiate this.
It's available online.
And there's a Muslim author, Irfanullah Khan, I think from Pakistan. He wrote a book, 8 Languages of Love from the Sunnah. So that's another book available as well.
Ita samajh pai vi, I think, yeah. I think we're good here.
Jafar uncle, I have something to add to your this thing. You were talking about marriages. Why don't we have this introduction of the women's or the girls' side proposing to the boys? Because ये असांजी माशरे में बहुत मुश्किल थी हुई है जिड़ा बदे छोकरे जी वाट नारन था कि छोकरे सी प्रपोजल अचे हींज वडी थी उन्हनि थी छोकरियूं whereas असांजी सुन्ना में आई बीबी खदीजा रदियल्लाहु अन she liked Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she was the one who initiated the proposal तो ई कुले पांजे माशरे में नतो थे इतरो टैब खराब हो करो DD9 माँ पे भी थरकन था कि हाय असांजी गालियों करो थी न्यू that's I feel like बहुत जरूरी है इड़ा
बेटा ई गाल आई थिंक मुझे कहना वधू पंहिंजी कम्युनिटी में मिसी जो सीनियर्स आहिनि इन जो जवाब ई सही दी सघना એટલે કુરલ કરને थियो બેટા પહેલા જમાને થી જ પાંજે ટ્રેડિશન ફક્ત ના પાંજે ગર્લ્સ કે આકો વડો રિસ્પેક્ટ દીમે આવવો હોય વડો રિસ્પેક્ટ દીમે આવવો પહેલા જમાને થી કે ગર્લ્સ જે પેરેન્ટ્સ કોડી પ્રપોઝલ કરી ના ઉન્નવા बॉयज साइड सचना वना तो गर्ल्स जी रिस्पेक्ट करी अगर ऊंचे मकाम तच नहीं भी आगे उन्हें चूड़ना के आइन तक दी असल पुत्र गिल्ला वावा करने वो अकरो वो रिस्पेक्ट पिला से बनल वो राइट देयर इज नो बार दैट यू कांट टेक द प्रपोजल फ्रॉम द गर्ल साइड लेकिन अना भी करो थे तो माँ कोक टेन ते एरो प्रपोजल्स वुंदा ना वाया वाया आपको मैसेज मोकला देती हाँ समझो अगर बच्ची एक रिया जी गाल नहीं आई तव्हां बाबू खे चवंदो बाबू ऐं साॻे में हिकिड़ो जानो आहे जी गाल घर में मोकिलो थी वियो दैट इज़ उहो को पहले से ट्रेडिशन थियो है कि हमेशह छोकिरी खे रिस्पेक्टफुली प्रपोजल मोकिलींदा हुआ उहो जेको सिस्टम है बट देयर इज़ नो बा अहिड़ो की रिस्ट्रिक्शन है कि ना गिरी ना हुआ बट दैट इज़ उहो छोकिरी जेका रिस्पेक्ट हो एलिविएट कर लाइ करने आई थिंक दैट इज़ द version I know about it. Maybe elders will know better. But they said, it's a way proposal, but you can take it via. I hope that answered the question.
All right. I think this subject है कि पग घाल करने तो फजर सुनी डावे वाई नो पांचो definitely बराबर है ना पूरो डी पूरी रात इन बारे में घाल कैसे कि ने उन्जो करो खत्म अचे नहीं अल्लाह पांजा marriages के सेन रखेगी ने इंशाल्लाह. Thank you very much to everyone for coming. I think a big thank you to our panel of professionals who have taken their time out and spoken on this. I think, yes, they deserve a very big round of applause. I don't think there was a single person who here sat and said anything that was useless. Everything we heard tonight, this evening, was extremely valuable. I mean, I've been married for more than a decade, but I can tell you there's so much I'm taking home today, and my wife will probably see a different Sam today. I don't know. But I'm sure there are lots of youngsters here, lots of old people here. I think there's so much on this subject that you can read about, you can learn about, and I think that is why this initiative that this wonderful committee has taken will go on. Inshallah, our next one is on the 30th of March. Is that right? 30th of March on Zoom. it will be an Islamic perspective on marriage. It will be conducted by Sheikh Ehsan Qadri, our very own alim from our community. So inshallah, obviously he'll know better some of the problems in our community and what solutions can be given from an Islamic perspective, inshallah. So you can join us, join that. We will give you the details. But I do want to thank once again our lovely panels. Sheikh Ruzaik Isma, thank you very much to you. Shahid Ba, of course, you're always there for all our Memon programs. Nida, thank you very much to you as well. And of course, our counsellor, Mrs. Seema Omar. You may now take your seats back. Jazakallah khair. And of course, yes, Sumaya, who's on the call with us. We keep forgetting her. Sumaya, thank you very much if you're still listening to us. That big bright smile, may Allah always keep you smiling as you also get into the bond of marriage that we're so hearing about. Right. I think before we
Thank
end,
you.
there's something more that we want to see, don't we? You know, we started off dramatically, so we want to end also in a bit of a drama. And yes, refreshments are being served, so please do enjoy them.
Shall we sit? No, let's
A credo for my relationships with others. You and I are in a relationship. Our relationship is important to me, and I want it to be important to you too.
Each of us is a unique person with separate needs. You have the right to meet your needs, and I have a right to meet mine.
Also, we have the right to our own beliefs and values. I'll respect your rights, and I want you to respect mine.
When your actions interfere with my needs, I'll let you know so that you can listen and possibly change. When my actions interfere with your needs, I want you to tell me. Then I'll listen and change if I can.
When either of us can't change to meet the other's needs, let's face our conflict and solve it together. I don't want to lose by letting you win, and I don't want to win by making you lose. I want us to find solutions that are acceptable to both of us so that we both win.
By following this credo, we make ourselves and each other better, and our relationship will grow stronger.
And have the barakah that Sheikh Ismat spoke about.
Thank you very much for that lovely little recital, if I may call it, Mrs. Seema Omar and of course Mrs. Aisha Anis. Once again, a big thank you to all of you. Before you go though, we have a little token of appreciation to be given to our beloved Sheikh Ruzaik Ismat. I think everybody enjoyed listening to him and his inputs into today's program. I invite Shahid Ba to come up on the stage if possible and give it to Sheikh Ruzaik Ismat. There's just a little token of appreciation. Probably the only non-Mehman in the house today, so please give him a big round of applause. I think Sheikh, I think you'll go back home today learning a few Mehman words, inshallah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again. It's been a lovely evening. Please feel free to interact with each other. I know it's quite late, but pa Mehman you, panjota do sara do vaje chalu uno. Ghal karo, khayo, enjoy karo, and inshallah we'll meet again on another day. Until then, thank you very much for joining. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.